I know that our starting time is at 1:30, but I can see that there's a lot of medias and our fellow Australians who are walking past and wondering what's going on here. I want to assure you that this protest is actually quite different to the one yesterday. This protest is against from the Vietnamese community, the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, and the Hong Kongs and the Taiwanese community that enjoy force together in bringing the awareness to our fellow Australians how the danger of the BRI, which is Belt Road Initiative, currently has been signed by the current state government. Mr. Daniel Andrews have actually signed the BRI in 2018 and again in 2019. I believe the future of young Australian people has actually been signed away by our premier, selling our souls to the Chinese Communist regime. This is something will be explained by our speakers. We will have a number of speakers today that will present it to you. And I hope that, we are here on your behalf, your fellow Australians, to act in the best interests of the Australian people. And we think that none of the states in Australia has actually signed up to the BRI initiative. Why is it only Victoria that signed up to? The federal government think that it's so dangerous to actually sign up with such initiative. Why is it only the state of Victoria has signed up to? None other state has, every other state have refused to, but the state of Victoria has signed up to. And also that I want to point it out too, that in Australia we have a freedom of speech. Look at a young man in the Queensland, the University of Queensland. When he raised his voice, he stood up for his belief. What happened to him? He was kicked out and he was actually being almost gagged under the, under the rules in Queensland University. He was taken to court. Is this the future that you want for our fellow Australians to have? If not, then I think that you should join with us in the future. I know that we are under restriction, but we should, when it's actually lift completely, I invite you all to join and raise the awareness with us. Our MC today will be Mr. Phong Nguyen. So in a few minutes, I think that I'll ask him to conduct the the program. The program will start with the national anthems, Australian national anthems, and the Republic of Vietnam national anthems. I know that I want all others community national anthem as well, but maybe we keep that for now, and we'll follow by a number of speakers that we have. Maybe I'll invite Mr. Phong Nguyen to come up here and MC for the event today.
Anh Hưng ơi, someone can I look after cái national anthem cho Phong được không anh em? Yeah, we got the people for freedom, for the democratic China just arrived, the Taiwanese community, so we wait for them. Thank you. And once again, we appreciate your observing of the 1.5 meters distancing rules. We are here as a peaceful protest for a very, very important purpose, for a very important issue. So we really appreciate your cooperation, and thanks the Victorian Police and the Parliament security forces for allowing us to do with the social distancing. We really appreciate your assistance on our democracy. Thank you. Now, once we all settle, we will begin. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Phong Nguyen. It's a great honor for me to be here as your MC for today's rally. And I will talk about the purpose of the rally later. But first, on behalf of the organizing committee, which is the Vietnamese community in Victoria, in Australia, Victoria chapter, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathering here today. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and emerging. We thank them for their sacrifices and we acknowledge their contribution throughout the history of Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you now to prepare your position for us to honoring and prepare for the national anthems of Australia and of the Republic of Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, please ready for the national anthem of Australia and the Republic of Vietnam. Rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea, our lands abound in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joy's full strength, and let us sing, advance Australia fair. Công dân ơi, quốc gia đến ngày giải phóng, đồng lòng cùng đi hy sinh chứ gì thân sống, vì tương lai quốc dân cùng sống phá khói tên, làm sao cho núi sông từ nay luôn vững bền, dù cho thay phơi trên gương dao, thủ nước lấy mau đào đem bao. Nòi giống lúc tiên phải cần giải nguy, người công dân luôn vững bền tâm trí, hùng tráng quyết chiến đấu làm cho khắp nơi vang tiếng người nước Nam cho đến muôn đời. Công dân ơi, mau hiến thân dưới cờ, công dân ơi, mau làm cho cõi bờ thoát cường tảng pha vẻ vang nổi danh danh nghìn năm dòng dông lạc hồng. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please join us in observe a minute of silence? A minute of silence to commemorate our ancestors, our forebears, who have built our nations and sacrificed their lives for our freedom and democracy. A minute of silence to commemorate all the democracy activists, advocates, and those who have died in the name of freedom. Especially today, we remember thousands of young students, Chinese students, was massacred to the Tiananmen Square about 31 years ago on the 5th of June. We also remember and pray for the safety and the courage of all human rights campaigners who are still in jails in China, in Tibet, in Vietnam, and everywhere else for our freedom and democracy. Phút mặc niệm để tưởng nhớ đến công đức của các bậc tiền nhân đã dày công dựng nước và giữ nước. Phút mặc niệm để tưởng nhớ các chiến sĩ của các lực Việt Nam Cộng Hòa và đồng minh đã hy sinh cho lý tưởng tự do. Phút mặc niệm để tưởng nhớ hàng vạn đồng bào đã hy sinh trên đường vượt biên vượt biển tìm tự do. Phút mặc niệm đặc biệt hôm nay để tưởng nhớ tất cả các nạn nhân của Đảng Cộng sản Việt Nam trong quá khứ, hiện tại. Đặc biệt hôm nay chúng ta tưởng nhớ hàng vạn sinh viên đã bị thảm sát tại Tiananmen Square cách đây 31 năm vào ngày 5 tây tháng 6. Phút mặc niệm để tưởng nhớ các nhà tranh đấu dân chủ đã hy sinh trong các ngục tù của Cộng sản Việt Nam. Phút mặc niệm bắt đầu. A minute of silence commences. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, my name is Hiến. I'm the Vice President of the Vietnamese community in Victoria. It is my great pleasure and honor to be here today to be your MC. My fellow Australians, first of all, I may run through the programs of today. We just started with the national anthems of Australia and of the Republic of Vietnam. We will follow by acknowledgement of communities, and I will talk about the purpose of today, followed by the Vietnamese community in Victoria representative, also the organizer of today rally, Mr. Bon Nguyen, the president. After that, Mr. Frank Ruchi, the key member of the Chinese Overseas for Democratic Movements, will speak to us, followed by Ms. Tenjin Domi, Secretary of the Tibetan Communities, followed by Mr. Alim Osman, President of the Uyghur Community in Victoria. After that, we will hear from the Vietnamese Veteran Association, representing by Mr. Dinh Nguyen, and also members of the Hong Kong community, Zion and Wing. And finally, we conclude our rally. First of all, we acknowledge the communities that joined us here today, apart from the Australian community, and we also have the representative from the Chinese Overseas Democracy community. We got the representative from the Tibetan community. We got the representative from the Uyghur community. We got the representative of the Vietnamese Veteran Association, and also members of the Hong Kong community here today. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the COVID-19, that we have suffering due to the CCP virus. I will explain later why we call that the CCP virus and not COVID-19 virus, ladies and gentlemen. But because of that, we got an empty street of Melbourne. We got empty street everywhere in Australia. We got empty street everywhere in the world, today, ladies and gentlemen. By whom? Who caused all of this disaster? Not economically, but on human lives. For the first time ever in human history, the whole world is suffering terribly under this pandemic arrived from the CCP China. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why we are here today. We are here today to stop the Victorian government from signing up with the perpetrator, with the culprit that caused the human disaster in our world today. So before I go into that, can I tell you about the purpose of today? Today's rally is not about or against the Chinese people or China. It's against the CCP. And the CCP stands for the Chinese Communist Party, ladies and gentlemen.
From now on, remember that abbreviation, CCP, stand for Chinese Communist Party. Remember that. Never forget that. And again, the CCP regime in China. And the crimes this evil regime has been committed against its own people, like the Cultural Revolution, where they kill millions, the land reform, where they kill tens of millions more, and the Tiananmen Square massacre. Just a few days ago, we commemorate that massacre. Thousands of young democratic youth of China were massacred 31 years ago. And of course, nearest is the brutal suppression of the Hong Kong people, wishes for independence and democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, and now the Wuhan CCP virus, aka COVID-19, that affects all of us and destroy the entire world's economy, ladies and gentlemen. Today rallies and many more rallies ahead that we're going to organize is to stop this deadly CCP virus from destroying our Victorian economy, our Victorian democracy, our Victorian independence and sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen. And more importantly, stopping it from spreading and infecting the entire nation of Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the beginning of a long and ongoing campaign by the people of Victoria to get rid of this Chinese CCP Trojan horse called BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, that the Andrews government had pulled into Victoria. He had pulled this Trojan horse right into our midst, in our Victoria. So far, Daniel Andrews is arrogantly chose to side with the CCP regime and turned his back to the rest of Australia by declaring, "I will not lecture in Beijing nor take orders from Canberra." Ladies and gentlemen, this is an act of a reckless premier, refusing to listen to reason and to the Australian people, ladies and gentlemen. Down with the CCP-BRI! Down, down, down! Get rid of the CCP-BRI in Victoria now! Vaccinate Australia against the CCP virus now! At a time when all Victorians, all states and territories in Australia, and every Australian are hurting badly by the reckless and disregard for human lives of the CCP regime in China, the wounds are still all wide open and bleeding, ladies and gentlemen. The Premier Andrews declared he will borrow billions of dollars from the pandemic culprit to rebuild what they had destroyed here in Australia around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of demanding the CCP China, demanding justice for our victims, demanding compensation for the businesses that have been damaged by this deadly CCP virus, he chose to sign up with the murderers, ladies and gentlemen. That is why we are here today. Compensation for the COVID victims now! Compensation for the COVID victims now! Stop borrowing blood monies from the CCP murderers now! Stop borrowing blood monies from the CCP murderers now! Independent inquiry into the COVID cover-up now! Independent inquiry into the COVID cover-up now! And ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of Victoria's economy, for the sake of Victoria's democracy, for the sake of Victoria's sovereignty, and indeed for the sake of Australia, we must fight and get rid of this Trojan horse, BRI, now. Get rid of the BRI Trojan horse now! Get rid of the BRI Trojan horse now! Down with the Victorian government treachery now. Down with the Victorian government treachery. Down, down, down. No more siding with the enemy of humanity, the CCP regime. No more. No more. No more. And ladies and gentlemen, let now introduce, I would like to introduce Mr. Bon Nguyen, the organizer of today's rally, and so also the president of the Vietnamese community in Australia and in Victoria to have a few words with us. Could you welcome Mr. Bon Nguyen?
Thank you, Mr. Phong Nguyen. Can I first acknowledge the traditional owner of the land and pay my respect to both the elders past and present? Can I also acknowledge the leaders of other ethnic communities, such as from the Democratic Society, as well as Tibetan community and the Uyghur community. The Hong Kong as well, I noticed that they are members of the Falun Gong that are actually standing, observing the rally with us today here as well. And of course, I would like to thank everyone who putting your precious time away to be here with us today and actually express on an issue that is really important to Australia. Okay, and I apologize. I apologize to many of those that want to be here with us today, but due to the restriction, I have made specific requests for you to be at home and follow us online through Facebook. So there are two groups here. Our group behind us are the protest people. We try to keep to the social distancing of 1.5 distance, and we call for 20 people. The group in front of us are the media's group that actually live stream so that people at home can follow. And I thank you for those who understand the situation, and I thank you for the media who are here taking photo and live stream so our fellow Australians at home can follow. Can I just make some little comments about our parliamentarians? I think that since the Daniel government signed the BRI, I think that it has gone pear-shaped. In my view, it has gone pear-shaped. You can see behind you, there are horse manures. That probably describe a lot. That actually describe a lot about the future of the current government is going, ladies and gentlemen. That is actually, I see, that's the fun face of the Victorian people. In my humble opinion, official, I think that all of this manure should be clean. It is the fun face that make Australian and Victorian proud. So I think it should be cleaned up. That would be my view. Ladies and gentlemen, Phong has put it very clearly, okay, why we are here. Let's not forget, if you have heard what I said this in the past already, well, if I say, keep repeating myself again, don't be surprised, because what happened, happened. And that was facts. And I cannot say anything other than facts, ladies and gentlemen. You have a look at the Chinese Communist regime. It is so dangerous. We, the Vietnamese community, and five other communities who are here with us today, were victims and continue to be victims of the communist regime in our own country before. This is why we left our country to come to Australia. We found our freedom in Australia today. We are struggling to understand why we found the freedom in Australia. We want to be disassociated with the country of our origin because of the regime is so dangerous. The regime is actually murdering their own people. We don't want to be associated with the murderers. This is why we choose Australia to be home. Many of us now who have many different backgrounds, Asian background, Vietnamese background, Chinese background, Taiwanese background, Hong Kong, and also Tibetan and Uyghurs as well, and many other European background, including the African background as well. But we choose Australia to be our home. We don't want to do with anything to do with actually the dictatorship regime. This is why we choose to leave our homeland and to be in Australia. Why do you then actually sign up to a regime that we run away from? To a government that actually we were not willing to accept. Why do you do that? We run away and you now signing it back. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can point you back to the history, and I'm keep repeating myself about this. Have a look at what happened to the Tibetan country. The Chinese communist regime overtook their country by force and murdered their people. To the point that I think that it is fair to say that it was a genocide from the Chinese Communist regime. There is no other word than actually genocide. That was the correct word that actually the Chinese Communist regime actually imposed onto the Tibetan country. They took away not just lives of the Tibetan people, but they took away the culture. They took away the religious practice. The freedom of actually the Tibetan people was no longer able to practice religion actually in the way that it should be. That's what you have seen. Have a look at the way that happened in actually the Uyghur. The Uyghur, actually, the people has been murdered, left, right, and center. We have been the witness to that. All right, right in the heart of China, 31 years ago, Tiananmen Square, thousands of people was being butchered, was being murdered, and we saw that. And the communist regime, guess what? They didn't care. They didn't care. They think that it's actually murdering their own citizens. It's just like butchering an animals. This is actually wrong. We witnessed that. And we remember that. And they want us to forget. But guess what? We're not going to forget. But perhaps, what we say, what made perhaps our voice had not been strong enough so that they pay enough attention. Today, 31 years ago, but today it's still happening. Have a look at what happened in Hong Kong right now. Hong Kong right now, they signed a treaty with the British for the agreement to keep the country with two systems for 50 years. And yet, after 23 years, what did they do? They want to sign a draft agreement so that they can actually seize power of Hong Kong. Okay, and this is what happening. You can see in the past few days that or months, you can see that the Hong Kong people are struggling. Hong Kong people, they are lovely people. They live among our community. We know they are friendly people. But why are they deserve to be brutally abused in their own country? And yet we stand by and we watch and we actually in the name of trade and we said, okay, we have diplomatic relationship with other nation. This is actually completely wrong, ladies and gentlemen. When I speak, I want you to join with me as well. So let's join with me and call for Chinese communists to be out of Melbourne. Chinese communist regime out of Australia now! No! Chinese communist regime out of Australia now! No! Chinese communist regime out of Australia now! No! Ladies and gentlemen, you seen the example of Hong Kong very clearly. Okay, the Western country was actually the witness to the signatory that actually they agreed to keep the system, the country with the system to 50 years. Now that they want to take control of the nation, take control of Hong Kong, what are we going to do? We were the witness, we were the official to that actually signatory. What are we going to do? I think that the Western country should actually take some action to save lives, because the moment I know that if Hong Kong is completely under the ruling of Chinese communist regime, I think that's end. That's it. That's the end for Hong Kong future. Hong Kong country and Hong Kong people was so well respected throughout the world. But guess what happened now? Their people are being butchered right in their homeland. And we're not going to stand by, ladies and gentlemen. So these are the kind of danger that we're seeing now. In September 2019, the Chinese communist regime knew about the coronavirus. My question to you is, okay, let's just not make commentary that actually could be racist. I can assure you that we are sitting here calling for the issue, calling for people to pay attention to the issue. It is incorrect to point out that it is racism issue. I know that racism issue exists in every society, but we are doing our best to address that issue. Okay, so don't actually point your finger, the Chinese communist regime, don't point your finger, this is racism issue. No, we are from the ethnic Asian community. We are here pointing out your dangers, your stand, and your action that you took. Had you actually reveal or share your information with the rest of the world, rather than concealing it. You concealed the information since September 2019, right? And you only disclosed it in January 2020. That's actually cost what? It cost hundreds of thousands of lives around the world, okay? A lot of people, up to now, I believe that it's more than 300,000 lives have died already, okay? The whole world economy is almost been brought to stand still. Is this what we want for our economy, ladies and gentlemen? No. This is something that we see that it's so dangerous. So join with me and say no to communism. No to communism now! No to communism now! No! Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen that, okay? The lives of many people have died.
our loved one, many of our Australian people, fortunately, that is only our death rate in Australia is low compared to other nations. But there's lives. Everyone's lives is important. So why should we actually let them play around with people's lives? This is actually wrong, very wrong. I mean, to the tune of hundreds of thousands are dying around the world. This is an issue that we should be looking at ourselves again. Issue of trade, issue of diplomatic, issue of human rights, issue of arrogance. And arrogance and dictatorship is actually coming to place, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that had the Chinese Communist regime shared information with the Western world, the amount of people that has died could have been reduced very significantly. Okay? So this is the danger that we are seeing what the Chinese Communist regime are doing to our society, to our modern society here. I'm sure that because look at the street of Melbourne now. It's empty. Look at the environment around you. Many people who are losing jobs. The children are not being able to go to school. Okay? It's affecting their future. It is affecting Australian future. Look at the shopping center. They're not being able to function normally that they would have. This is affecting our lives. And get what? When we normalize our trade with the Chinese Communist regime, we put diplomatic relationship first. We put trade first. And guess what? We prefer, we Australian, I have to say that we Australian, including myself, have to be blamed. We prefer to buy cheap option, ladies and gentlemen. We bought products from China because it was cheap. It was cheap. We saved a lot of money during that time. But guess what? During this time now, it's only one hit. It's only one hit to the coronavirus. How much more money have you lost? How much money have your family lost? How much money have Australia as country as a whole lost? 16.5% of the GDP at the expense to actually look after our fellow Australians, during the coronavirus. This is not a small amount of money, and they are yet to come, ladies and gentlemen. So I think it is time that we should have a look. And every other country elsewhere, they are so vigilant about the BRI. BRI is actually open up. In my view, the Chinese open up not to just do business, but they have other hidden agenda. And that other hidden agenda has pointed out by many experts, okay, including leaders of many countries already. We know how dangerous it is. Our Prime Minister, I believe that he is actually acting very decisively to stand up and call for independent review, independent investigation into where the coronavirus came from. And he actually asking what role WHO was involved during that time. Okay, I think that position is very clear. Okay, and he called for that position to be investigated properly. What happened after that is the Chinese Communist regime. They then actually using pressure, diplomatic pressure and economic pressure to force Australia to be silent. What did they do? You knew all well. Our Australian products, when it's actually at the Chinese ports, it was under severe scrutiny, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and not to mention about the tax. 80% of tax on our barley products that was actually to be exported to China, and the beef was not being able to have the normal sales to the Australian people, to the Chinese people. I think this is actually very wrong. We should go back and actually free ourselves from being actually influenced by the Chinese Communist regime. So we saw that danger. The whole nation was trying to protect the Australian interest. Where was our Premier? Our Premier, why our Australian farmer was suffering, our Australian iron ore was suffering, our Australian beef and barley was suffering. Why didn't he put any words out there to protect our fellow Australians at all? Why? He claimed that yes, the Belt and Road Initiative is actually important, and his claim that it's creating jobs up to the 62% of actually trade with China. But can I put this to him? Okay, over the past year, 10 years, many years, many others premier have been able to actually create jobs. Job was on the trend of going up, not down. Okay, so it's not that if he go from 0 to 62, this is wrong. So he has increasing trade and creating job creation. It's no further different, no different to any other previous premier. So why did he have to sign to BRI? So why did he have to be signed up to BRI? So I think, rip up BRI now! No! Tear up BRI now! No! Tear up BRI now! No! Ladies and gentlemen, he has said that yes, he has created jobs. He's not apologizing for it. Okay, so if that's what you're saying, I'm saying to you that Premier, your word is no much better than the previous Premier. So why are you claiming that you're creating jobs for the Australian? What about those Australians who lose job at the moment? Are you speaking up for them? Are you the Victorian Premier for every Victoria, or are you self-interest? Are you self-interest? Is there anything out there? You're saying to the Victorian people that, oh, okay, we signed MOU, but it's no legal binding. Okay, if it's no legal binding, and then be transparent with it, put it on the table so we can all see. Put it on the table so we can all see what it is. At the moment, all we're hearing is you're telling us it is non-legal binding. We don't know what you signed. If it's non-legal binding, why can't you show it to us? That's the problem. I mean, as Victoria here, you know, I believe that we are in a huge debt. Okay, show it to us how much debt that you are borrowing from the Chinese Communist regime. How much debt? How long do we need to pay? How much impact it's gonna have on the future generation? And we talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, have a look at Sri Lanka ports when Chinese government actually lend them money to actually build, you know, in the BRI strategy that the Chinese Communist regime initiated it. All right, when they lend money to Sri Lanka, when they could not repay, what happened? They took the port. They took over the port. And this is the national strategy. Again, I'm calling on our fellow Australians to rethink that after this coronavirus, there are a number of things that we should do. Okay, we need to strategize our national asset. I think the port of that one is an example. If we have to, we revoke that agreement that we had. We should take that strategic asset back to us. We should be a wake up. We should be a wake up nation. We should come together to brainstorm for the future of Australia. The future of Australia is in our head. We are Australian people. If we don't look after the future of Australia, no one else can look after for us. I am sorry to say, we are the Australian people. We need to look after the future of Australian interests, ladies and gentlemen. And for that, I leave you and I wish you a wonderful day. But before I depart, join with me and call for freedom in China, freedom for Tibet, freedom for Uyghur, and freedom for Hong Kong and Vietnam as well. So let's join with me. Freedom for China!
Freedom for China!
Freedom for China!
Freedom for China!
Freedom for Tibet!
Freedom for Tibet!
Freedom for Tibet!
Freedom for Tibet!
Freedom for Uyghur!
Freedom for the Uyghurs!
Freedom for the Uyghurs!
Freedom for the Uyghurs!
Freedom for Hong Kong!
Freedom for Hong Kong!
Freedom for Hong Kong!
Freedom for Hong Kong!
Freedom for Taiwan!
Freedom for Taiwan!
Freedom for Taiwan!
Freedom for Taiwan!
I know that Taiwan is actually under freedom already. Don't laugh, I understand what I'm saying, but it's actually under constant military threats from China. So freedom for Taiwan! Freedom for Vietnam!
Freedom for Vietnam!
Freedom for Vietnam!
Freedom for Vietnam!
And most importantly, Australia must be free from China. Australia must be free from China now!
Now!
Australia must be free from China now!
Now!
Australia must be free from China now!
Now!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are in Australia. We are on the same boat. Let's work together and actually resolve the issue peacefully.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a bit rich for China to now say that Australia is racist. Ladies and gentlemen, there are how many Chinese in Australia right now? You can guess. 1 million. Do you think if Australia is racist, if our country is terrible? Why? More than 1 million, yes. And yes, why they come? Why they fighting to come here to enjoy the freedom, democracy, and the respect that Australians have shown in our multiculturalism, ladies and gentlemen. So, it is cheap for the Chinese to say that this is a racist issue. Number one, down with the CCP regime. Down with the CCP regime. Down with the Daniel Andrew government protecting the Trojan horse into Victoria. Ladies and gentlemen, another issue. They say, what is the difference? China suffered too. You know, the other people, the other country got COVID-19. What is the difference? Ladies and gentlemen, a huge difference. Remember the word CCP. That is why I promise you, I'll explain to you why we call it the CCP virus and not the COVID-19 virus. Because, ladies and gentlemen, my answer is China. Remember this, Taiwan. Compare Taiwan and China. When in a free and democratic country like Taiwan, the government, when they know something, they immediately have to protect their people. If they don't do the right thing by their people, what happened? They vote it out, isn't it? What is the difference in China, ladies and gentlemen? Under the CCP, under communist regime, there are no elections. Even the election is a fake one. So they don't care. That's the difference. Because they can cheat, they can lie, they can cover up. But they know when all things happening and after 1 million people died, they're still there. Because nobody can vote them out. That is why the difference, if COVID-19, if coronavirus happened in a free country, even in America, terrible death there. But the government had to be open, have been checked. And if the people don't like it, they can vote the government out. But in China, they can kill the citizen. They don't give a sorry, I shouldn't swear, a damn about the lives of millions of Chinese there. They can die. But they won't have to worry about that. They will be there. That is why the CCP virus kills the people of China. The CCP virus kills the rest of the world. Because if in a democratic country, CCP will be, you know, the virus can be stopped, but not at the expense that the human lives like the CCP, the CCP have done. So, ladies and gentlemen, join with me by saying, down with the CCP! Down with the CCP! Down with Comrade Daniel Andrew for joining with the CCP! Ladies and gentlemen, before I invite the next speaker, I will talk to you later on about bullying. This is the bullying tactic and how Australia should deal with it. So without further ado, may I invite the representative from the member of the Chinese Overseas Democracy Movement, Mr. Frank Ruchi. Could you please welcome him?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Jie from the Chinese community in Melbourne. I'm from the mainland of China. Today we are here again to standing here to call Daniel Andrew to cancel the One Belt One Road initiative to stop anything cooperation with the communist regime of China. This is not small business. This is related to the safety of Australia, to the safety of everyone in Australia. We can call it Australia safety matters. Just as Feng mentioned before, early this week, the Chinese Communist government, they issued a notice to tell and suggest all the Chinese people not traveling to China or to Australia. They say there is frequently race discrimination every day, all the time in Australia now. The Chinese people, the Asian people are attacked all the time. It's not safety, it's dangerous to traveling to Australia. It is lie, they're telling the lie. They are liars. We cannot cooperate with the liar. Is that right? Okay. And then everybody know the virus pandemic happened 6 months ago in China, originally in China. But until now, the Chinese Communist regime refused the international expert to go to China for the investigation of the origin of the virus. Why? Because they made the biological chemical weapon. They test the chemical weapons in China. And they let the virus spread all over the world to damage the Western democratic countries. Now they are destroying the evidence, and they don't want the people to know the truth. Communist regime is a mafia. The Chinese communist regime is mafia. We cannot cooperate with the mafia. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And tell you, 2 days ago, it was the 31 years anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacres. In the past 70 years of the communist regime in power, they killed over 18 million Chinese people. And now they are still killing the Chinese people too in Hong Kong. And they still arrest a lot of human rights activists and human rights lawyers in China, put them into the prison. This regime is arrogant. We cannot cooperate with arrogant. Is that right?
That's correct. Right.
And I will tell you the one belt, one rule is the target of the communist regime to dominate the world, to buy the politicians in the Western countries. Now I have a question to ask Daniel Andrew. How much money did you get from the Chinese Communist government? And at this moment, I suggest I call on the federalist authority put an investigation on Daniel Andrews and also his Chinese assistant in his office. And I want more time, Australian people must realize the one belt, one road is poison, is violence to our society. If we accept the one belt, one road, it will do big damage to our society here. Because the one belt, one road of the communist government in China is to export their corruption, their influence in the democratic and fair country here. In here today, we will tell Daniel Andrew again, we are the taxpayer of Victoria. We don't want the one belt, one road. We know the one belt, one road is dangerous to Australia. We don't want it. We want Daniel Andrew to stop all the agreement, all the cooperation, the one belt, one road with the communist regime. No, no more, no.
Now. No more.
Okay, everyone, in here is one part of the Australia, one of the community of Australia, one person living in Australia. We stand here to make the voice, to let more people to hear us, to let the Daniel Andrews government to hear us voice, to cancel the one belt, one road. No one belt, one road. No Chinese communist regime influence in Australia. No CCP influence in Australia. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, I'm so pleased to report to you On one single Facebook, we got 3,000 people have been following our rally today. One Facebook. So I think we have been followed, and we appreciate those who at home. Thank you for joining us in spirit today. And hopefully, as COVID-19 restrictions is relieved and extended, and relieved, we will have far more bigger, and you will be able to join us in the future rallies. We will, this is a message for the Victorian government. We will for Australia's sake. We will for Victoria's sake. And we will for our children's sake. We'll be here in the step of Parliament here and rally until the BRI is being get rid of. If it takes 2 years until the next election, Daniel Andrew, remember this. We will be here for 2 years. We will make sure that the Victorian people, we have waken up to the danger of this CCP virus, of the Chinese Communist Party. Their recklessness, their disregard for human rights have now caused us pain, have caused us economic damage, has caused the whole world massive deaths. We, the Victorian people, the Australian people, and the rest of the world have finally woken up to this CCP virus. This is the source and the reason why the COVID-19 can kill. But the CCP virus is far more 10 times, 100 times more deadly than that. And more so that they have now used the BRI, which I use the word Trojan horse. Everyone, those who don't know Trojan horse, I think we all know that. The Greek, during the Trojan siege of a Greek city called the Troy, the invader, they built a massive horse and they hide their soldier inside, and they park it in front of the citadel or whatever. And the Greeks, the defender, was so innocent. They thought, oh, this is a horse. They put it inside. And that night, the soldier from inside the horse got out and attacked from the within, and outside attack, and Troy fell. Ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what Daniel Andrew, the Victorian government, have pulled a Trojan horse right here in Victoria. We are the victim. We are the victim, unfortunately. We are the one, while the federal government and all other states and territories has opposed this. They knew, they listened to national security advice. But Daniel Andrew has been given the same advice. He refused to listen. He has been in China for so many times. And he singly signed up Victoria without asking, without doing anything, asking us. He signed up and he thought he had just won a landslide victory in the last election. He arrogantly believed that he will win again. As long as he build more roads, as long as he build more bridges, he will win again. Ladies and gentlemen, that is wrong now. This is, like Daniel Andrew, this is post-COVID-19. The word China is the word that all premiers, all politicians throughout the world try to avoid to be associated with China, CCP. And why our premier go against all of that? I think he has been infected. His government has been infected by the CCP virus. They either tie him somehow. He already signed, he already borrowed the money, ladies and gentlemen. That is my guess. He already signed. That's why the Chinese, the CCP, have already infected him with their virus. So now he have no way out. Because if he say, no, I didn't borrow, the CCP will say, hi, there you are, you sign here. And that's the end of his government. He cannot do that. So the best he can do right now is to hide, to refuse, arrogantly refuse to tell the opposition, the parliament, how much he already borrowed. How much are we in here, up to here, with debt from China? Ladies and gentlemen, at a time like this, we should pull back, because this is borrowing money. Remember, this is borrowing money. Who's going to pay it? If not us, our children. And if we cannot pay, what happens? Look around the world under BIR. You pay with your lands, you pay with your ports, you pay with your city, you pay with your strategic assets. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you pay. Look at that. So that's how our children have to pay. Australian security, Australian sovereignty will be paid for the debt of the Victorian government. At the moment, instead of joining with all the rest of Australia to protect Australia against BRI, our Premier turned his back to our Australian people's security and sovereignty. He prepared to go with the devil. He prepared to shake hands with them. He prepared to borrow the blood money. At the moment, every money from China, CCP, is blood money. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this. Every money we or any government borrow from the CCP right now is blood money. Why blood money? Because 400,000 people are dying, have already dead, and millions are dying everywhere. That is blood money. And if somebody would you borrow money, if the person who just killed your grandfather, your grandmother, your children, your auntie, and you go around and borrow from the murderer to rebuild your house, that is not the right thing to do. Daniel Andrews and Victorian government, that is not human, that is animals. And that is why we say, down with the Daniel Andrews cooperative with the BRI initiative. Down with the BRI initiative in Victoria. Ladies and gentlemen, the next guest speaker I would like to invite to the microphone is Miss Tenzin Dormi, the Secretary of the Tibetan community. She has inspired me and my community a lot, because if anyone who's a witness of the BRI result or any due association with China or believe in the CCP, if the world believe in CCP, Australia and all other countries will become Tibet. Ladies and gentlemen, let's listen from the very people who are right now have been eradicated, have been genocide by this very regime. Let's say one thing, but do totally conflicting. So, ladies and gentlemen, please and welcome Dormi Tenzin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to the elders past and present. I come here today as a Victorian and also on behalf of the Tibetan community of Victoria to express a concern and also to condemn our Premier Daniel Andrews' decision to sign MOU, BRI MOU with China. Because I know from my own country's past experience and also from the way the China works or deals that this projects or these so-called BRI initiative is their means to expand their geopolitical influences in BRI network countries. There are many countries who are now in debt distress because of BRI-related projects, and there are many other countries who are pushing back on these countries. And in such scenario, my question to our Premier is, why, or isn't it a concern that we are the only state to have signed BRI and also to have China as our largest trading partner? Australians deserve much respect and dignity in its diplomatic and trade relations with China, but we have seen recently on our own soil the punitive and vindictive nature of China's way to secure their own national interest. As Bon has said before about 80% tariff on Australian barley export, this is one of the latest examples, but there are many more. And we must remember that as Australians, we deserve respect and we deserve dignity in our relations. I call upon our Premier, Daniel Andrews, to keep human dignity, to keep freedom and democracy before trade, and to cancel all the commitments related to BRI initiative. Thank you. Thank you for all your presence today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Domi. The next guest speaker I'd like to invite here is Mr. Alan Osman, President of the Uyghur community in Victoria.
Thank you very much. First of all, we acknowledge the traditional owners of this land which we are protesting today. My name is Ali Mosman, representing Uyghur community in Victoria. Thank you all very much for coming here today to support us. When we talk about Chinese Communist regime's Belt and Road Initiative, as an ordinary Australian, first thing we think of is that what is China's Belt and Road Initiative involved in Australia? What is in it for us to benefit from it? The reality is we don't know nothing about Victorian government's secret handshake with Chinese Communist Party's BRI. We don't know what's in it. We don't know how it's going to affect us. We don't know how it's going to affect our country as a whole. As a taxpayer, we don't know what we signed up for. But what we know for sure is that what happened to those countries like Kenya and Sri Lanka who previously signed up for CCP's Belt and Road Initiative. CCP provided funds to build various infrastructure projects and used its own construction companies all the way to finish. The feasibility of the projects or the country's ability to repay the loan didn't matter because the CCP got its money back in full by using Chinese-made materials and labor. And as additional bonus, Kenya and Sri Lanka couldn't make repayment on the loan. So CCP took their strategic ports to use as CCP's own property for 99 years. That's why we say Belt and Road Initiative is win-win for Chinese Communist Party only. That's why the Belt and Road Initiative called Chinese Communist Party's Strategic International Debt Trap Plan. If the Andrews government think that Chinese Communist regime will treat him differently, then Daniel Andrews must be in love with Chinese Communist Party. I don't have any other explanation for that. Internally, Chinese Communist Party implementing their rule on Chinese people through fear, intimidation and violence. They put more than 2 million Turkic Uyghur people into 21st century concentration camps in their homeland East Turkestan. More than 200 Tibetan monks burned themselves to death in Tibet as a result of CCP's repression. CCP's systematic organ harvesting from its own citizens going on a daily basis. According to Human Rights Watch, Chinese Communist regime is the biggest threat to global human rights in our time. Internationally, despite international court ruling of its illegality, Chinese Communist regime built man-made military islands in Pacific Ocean, strengthen the freedom of navigation and the sovereignty of countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. The recently Chinese Communist regime denied Hong Kong's freedom and democracy, despite the Chinese Communist regime itself signed the British-Chinese Joint Declaration, which guarantees Hong Kong's freedom and democracy for 50 years, until 2047. At the end, whatever the Chinese Communist regime signs with pen on paper, they don't honor it. They don't obey the rule of law. If Daniel Andrews thinks that the CCP will treat him otherwise, then he must be blinded by love of CCP. Signing up with CCP's Belt and Road Initiative makes Australians vulnerable to not only economic cohesion, but also long-term supply chain warfare and limitation of freedom of speech. The recent suspension of 21-year-old student Drew Powell from University of Queensland for his criticism of CCP is a typical example of limitation of freedom of speech in our society. If we sign up with CCP's Belt and the Road Initiative, rallies like this, we're having it here today, speaking up against the CCP will become the thing in the past. So we have to rebuild our strategic resilience with like-minded countries like in the Five Eyes Partnership and beyond, but not with authoritarian countries like Chinese Communist regime. Around me here today, we have different flags other than our true blue Aussie flag. They are here not to divide us, but to show us we care and unite us more than ever in these uncertain times. They are here to remind us every second and a minute what we couldn't have, where we come from. And our true blue Aussie flag reminds us what we have in this great nation, that's freedom and democracy. The place you have your freedom is where your country is. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. We all should unite as one Australian. Our unity is needed more than ever to fight for Australian values, our national interest, and say no to CCP's Belt and Road Initiative. Spread the word. Let people know. Together, we can make this great nation truly free for our kids. Thank you very much.
Well spoken, well spoken. Thank you very much, Olin. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker I've got on the list is Mr. Ding Nguyen. Mr. Ding is representing the Vietnamese Veterans Association in Victoria. Could you please welcome him?
Thank you, Mr. Phong Nguyen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We already heard four speakers raise their concern in many different areas relating to Belt and Road Initiative, which is carried by the Victoria government. I would like to raise a question. Should we trust the Chinese communists when dealing with them or not? There are many factors to answer this question. However, I only raise 3 points. First, look at what have happened in Pacific Ocean. Ladies and gentlemen, I use the word Pacific Ocean, not Chinese Ocean, where the Chinese communists, they try to claim many parts not belong to them. That's why they have a dispute with Vietnam, Taiwan, Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia. They are greedy. The second point, in 1990s, before taking Hong Kong from the British government, the Chinese communists, they had declared one country and two policy. Now look at what they doing in Hong Kong. Now one country and one policy. That's why the Hong Kong people keep protesting against the Chinese communists. And the last point, not only the Australian politician or the leader of community condemn the Chinese communist government, but also many international world leaders and politicians condemn the Chinese communist government too. I take a quote from one person who have many years in dealing with the Chinese communists, and his name is Norman John Baker. He is a very respected politician, and he is the member of the British government and the parliament. He has experience in dealing with the Chinese communists for many years, and I quote, "In my dealing with the Chinese communists, I have learned one fact. They do not play the same rules as other countries. They play dirty. They play dirty what they are doing in Australia and to Australia. They insult our government, a dog of United States. But listen, when Australians raise our voice, the whole world, 120 countries listen to our government. They insult Australian people, racist. Racist, Mr. Fong just mentioned. How many people from China living under Chinese communist government want to be here? And how many Australians want to go there to live? They are threaten our farmer, threaten our white beef, hospitality, many different areas. They try to interfere into our educational system. So that's no factor. We can clearly, we never trust Chinese communists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ding. As the old say, maybe the BRI is not worth the paper it's written on. And Daniel Andrew, if you know the communists as we do, as millions of people inside China know, and those victims got their sons and children in China know, to the Tiananmen Square. And as the Hong Kong people knows, it's not worth anything. For the communists, even your life doesn't worth anything. How can a piece of paper worth anything? Remember that, Mr. Daniel Andrew. This is what you sign up for. This is you using our democratic, you abuse our democratic system to sign up just simply because you are premier of the day. We will make sure if you do not, tomorrow if you tear this up, you will be respected. But if you do not tear it up, the people of Victoria, the people of Australia will tear you down. And we will, I believe, Australia will tear up any piece of paper you sign with them. That's why we support the opposition leader, the opposition, the Liberal Party in Victoria, for promising if they want government at the next election, they will tear us up. That is the right way to do. That is the only way to deal with these bad deals with the communist regime. Furthermore, we do not deal with murderers, like many of our speakers said. Do not do away with the death and the destruction which so many Australians have been suffering and the world is suffering. Do not remember that and do not forget that. So without further ado, can I warmly welcome the representative from the Hong Kong, the hotspot right now, the one that's why we cannot trust China. the CCP. We may trust the people of China. We may trust China per se, but only when free China. When China is free, just like Taiwan, just like Taiwan, and just like the people of Hong Kong, we trust you. But like you, we will, and Australia must not trust the BRI, must not trust the CCP government. So without further ado, can I invite the, what's your name? Wing, yes. Could you welcome Wing and also Zion?
Thanks, Fong, for the introduction. Yes, me and Zion are from the Hong Kong Australian Political Association. Let me start by saying the problem is not China or the Chinese. The problem is the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. The problem is that we shouldn't be cutting deals with the CCP. The CCP virus has opened the world's eyes on the true nature of the CCP. The CCP's propaganda machine has been in overdrive, spreading and twisting lies and twisting the truth. The One Belt, One Road initiative is a territorial expansion under the guise of globalization. It is highly problematic. It undermines the international rule of order. The real ambition behind the One Belt, One Road is to use economic means as a vanguard to establish control over the financial and political lifelines of other countries and turn them into CCP colonies in its globalist strategy. When will you see, Daniel Andrews, that the CCP's aim is to increase their control by increasing our dependence on the CCP? Is this in Victoria's best interest? Is this in Australia's best interest? Peter Harcher said it quite well in the Sydney Morning Herald. Australia has arrived at its moments of truth. It is now presented with the explicit choice between sovereignty and money. Are you willing, Daniel Andrews, to sacrifice and put at risk our sovereignty for the illusion of jobs? The CCP just can't be trusted with deals. Just look at Hong Kong. The Sino-British Joint Declaration registered with the United Nations, promising one country, two systems. What does that agreement tell us about how the CCP operates? The CCP strategy is to divide and conquer, to occupy the countryside and to surround the cities. Victoria and Australia must find strength in unity. We can't let the Belt and Road divide us from other states and divide us as a country. We must see through the lies of the CCP and not let them have more leverage over us. Yes, Australia has to rebuild from the pandemic. Every state has to rebuild. We are in this together as Australians, and we will rebuild together. But we should not be rebuilding with the CCP and with their Belt and Road. The more we cower to the bully that is the CCP, the more they will bully us. We shouldn't be giving them more leverage over us as a state or as a country. They've already shown us they are willing to threaten us over boycotts to education, tourism and agriculture. We need to stand strong and call their bluff. We need to stand up against them like the people of Hong Kong are standing against them now. The CCP are a morally corrupt regime, and you want to cooperate with them. Let me remind you, last Thursday was June the 4th, the 31st anniversary of the Tiananmen massacre by the CCP. This is the regime you want to cooperate with. They've persecuted the Uyghurs, the Tibetans and the Falun Gong. This is the regime you want to cooperate with. The China Tribunal final judgment affirmed that forced organ harvesting is happening with the Uyghurs and the Falun Gong. This is the regime you want to cooperate with. They've crippled Hong Kong and are ruling it with terror. They will pass security laws to silence its critics. This is the regime you want to cooperate with. Can't you see our Australian values do not align with those of the CCP? They do not represent China or the Chinese people. We must not cut deals with the CCP. We need to distance ourselves from Belt and Road. We need to distance ourselves from the CCP. No Belt and Road!
No Belt and Road!
No Belt and Road!
No Belt and Road!
Thanks, Wayne. Few questions I want the public and also perhaps Premier Andrew's supporters within the Labour Party to ask. We are very concerned about Premier Andrew's decisions in progressing on his Belt and Road Agreement with the government of People's Republic of China. We do not understand why there's no thorough and detailed consultation process with our federal government. On that note, we have a question for Premier Andrews publicly, and it should be posted to public for everyone to ask. When dealing with countries like people of Republic of China, we need to ask whether there has ever been human rights thresholds or human rights safeguards in place when dealing with countries like China, because we need to understand the human rights violation is severe, and I believe Premier Andrews, as what he so-called himself a progressive leader and Premier of the Victoria, we need to have a clear answer to that. Here we also need to sort of call out also the federal government to clarify whether the Turnbull's government signed on the infrastructure agreement with China back in 2019, whether that has been officially cancelled, and we also need to dig into that, and we need a clear answer from the state and federal government about, as a country, where we're going. We also want to condemn all forms of racism targeting the Asian Australian community. We are a community, as you can see here. We are passionate to serve the country. We love this country. And we're here, we all sharing the same value of human decency and democracy. So thank you, everyone.
Well spoken, our friends from Hong Kong. We are with you all the ways, and the world are with you. And of course, we don't want, while the British government promised millions, take in millions of Hong Kong, if Hong Kong fell into totally into the communist hand, and even country like Australia. But we don't want the Hong Kong people have to leave their homelands like we do. We want Hong Kong to be free now, and we want, I think the rest of the world should put pressure and do not let China get away with what they're doing right now. And I think there are many ways we can do against China. One thing is they should be subjected to the so-called economic sanction. If the rest of the world, remember, China still rely on the whole CCP regime, it rely on trade. Remember, they bully, but they know very well that without the buyers, without us, if we, the rest of the world, just trade with each other and left this bully on the side, the CCP on the side, it will die. It will be destroyed. And we will not take anyone, let alone Hong Kong. And I think we should remind, this is a time when the whole of the world should make sure that we recognize Taiwan, bring Taiwan back into the UN, and make sure that the Hong Kong people got a referendum. Do they want independence? And if the rest of the world support Hong Kong independent, and make sure that we isolate this bully CCP regime, they will die. The people in China will not let them survive. But this is a time we must unite it. The rest of the world have now been the victim for the first time in human history. That the whole world been affected. It's worse than First World War, Second World War, and even if we have Third World War, maybe it's just as like this. So ladies and gentlemen,
CCP, the communist regime in China have declared war on the world. It has damaged the rest of the world. We must let them get away with it. 400,000 deaths and growing, and million people affected, and all the businesses, all our livelihoods is gone. Australia has been now is in debt. Every country is in debt. We must make sure that, you see, sometime the other day I got this thought. It is a deliberate CCP action to make sure that the country that already struggle under the BIRs because they are in debt, now with the CCP virus destroy them even further. Surely their lands and their ports are now subjected to repayment. I wonder, because Australia may survive, but some of the African countries cannot survive because they already dead up to here with the BIR. And now is the time the vulture, the CCP vulture will land on the corpse of this country and say, demand them to give up their land and their port and all of that to the CCP in paying off the huge debt that they're already in. Ladies and gentlemen, is this a theory, a far-fetched theory? I'm not sure about that now, right? So, and by the way, they also destroyed the USA, they destroyed all the biggest country in the world, Germany, France, Italy, all these economic powerhouses in the world been destroyed, all right? And China single-handedly, with all these things, they believe that they will, it reminds me of the Winter Olympics, that Australia won the first gold medals in the Winter Olympics ice skating because there was an incident and all of the ice skater before fell, and the Aussie is the only one who's still on his skate, and he won gold medal. Ladies and gentlemen, it reminds me maybe this is the Chinese communist regime strategy. Destroy the world. Everyone fell. I am the only one on the skate. I dominate. That is my theory. I hope that Daniel Andrews and the rest of Australia, the rest of the world should think the same. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for all our speakers. For you are speaking one thing so striking, one thing about all that we talk, because we talk the truth. And the CCP is nothing but the truth. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing, Australian and the world is dealing with a liar, a disregard for human rights, a disregard for the truth, a disregard for democracy and freedom. That is what we are dealing with. So, before we conclude this afternoon, may we recap what we are here for, ladies and gentlemen. Point number one. That is, we are not here against the Chinese people, because we got the Hong Kong people, we got Malaysian, we got Singaporean, we got people living in Taiwan, and the people inside China too. The proof why they are like us, we're not again, because they have died for their freedom through Tiananmen Square, isn't it? That is the wish of the people, the majority, the symbol of the wish of the Chinese people to be free. And they have been killed in their thousands. That is why we are not here. Forget what the Chinese government may tomorrow say, hey, look at the step of parliament today in Victoria. This is a proof of anti-Chinese, anti-China. No! We, with the free people in China, we are with the free Chinese people around the world. We're not here against Chinese people. We're not here against China. We are here against the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party and their regime. That is what we are here, point number one. Point number two, is we are here to ask that Daniel Andrew do not break rank, do not shake hands with the murderers. Please respect those who have died under COVID-19. While there are thousands, hundreds of thousands dead, and the whole world being destroyed, including Victoria, how could you openly say that you will shake hands with the murderer, with the culprit of this disaster on the world scale, Daniel Andrew? Number 3 is today is a long campaign that I remember Mr. O'Brien, the leader of opposition, when he was interviewed by the radio, they said to remind him, Mr. O'Brien, your party is just a rum now. In the parliament, you don't control the upper house, you don't control the lower house. Daniel Andrew got a blank check. He does, that's why he does whatever he likes. And Mr. O'Brien said, yes, that's true. We do not control the parliament. Daniel Andrew is arrogant. Daniel Andrew said he can do anything he likes because he controls both houses of parliament. But I rely and I believe in people power. I like that. Yes, we are here as people power. We will prove to Daniel Andrew or any government in Australia who contemplates signing up with the CCP, selling away our sovereignty and our democracy, one thing. We, the people power of Australia and of Victoria, will make sure that you are wrong, Mr. Daniel Andrew. And we tell the opposition, be courageous, be with us. We will be with you on this issue, BRI. And let's make sure that the next election, if the BRI is still here, we will make sure where we will vote. That is one thing we guarantee. So that is point number 3. And point number 4, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Daniel Andrews, when he was asked about why you signed up this, when Mr. O'Brien, the opposition leader, asked him in the parliament, ladies and gentlemen, why you disregard the human rights and the issue going on in China, why you signed up? You know what Daniel Andrew told him? He told this in the parliament. He said, good luck to you. If you want to sign something like trade and you bring up human rights issue, you need a miracle. What are you? Like in the parliament here, there's a pile of it, manure there. Huh? I think Daniel Andrew has totally infected. If I were Victorian Parliament, I put him in ICU. He actually been infected. He needs his ICU to wake up. Because simply, Mr. Andrew, one thing, when you say you'd be prepared to trade away human rights, trade away Australian value for a bit of money, I like my friend say, this is the choice between money or sovereignty. I am 100% sure that 100% of Australian, Chinese, Australian, Vietnamese, Australian or not, we will say sovereignty. It's better being free than be in debt and in debt, ladies and gentlemen, under the BRI. So with that, I want to invite Mr. Bonwin, the organizer, to have a few words, last words to all of us here, and to thank you and everyone at home for following us here today. And please mark this. This is the first, ladies and gentlemen, the first rally. The first rally. As soon as we allow 20 people, we are here, as we promised. And we, the Vietnamese community, with all the Asian community here, and we promise solemnly with all our Australian, next time we will see the union, next time we will see all the Australian here with us in a bigger and bigger and bigger crowds. As the law permits us, I can promise you solemnly, we will not rest, we will not stop. until the BRI is torn up and our sovereignty is secure, our democracy is secure. This is a done deal. This is a bloody deal with the murderers. And we must not allow the culprit that destroy our nation, destroy our country, to be signed up by this premier or any premiers or any state. Or that for that, I thank you and invite Mr. Bonwin.
I would like to invite all of the ethnic community leaders to come around with me, and then we want to share with you what we think of the BRI. Can I invite the Tibetan, the Uyghurs, and the Hong Kongs, and the Chinese democratic leaders to come up here with me? Ladies and gentlemen, what do we want? We want to tear up the BRI, Belt Road Initiative. It's so dangerous for our future of Victorians. It's so dangerous for the future of our fellow Australians. So what do we want? We're going to demonstrate that right now, ladies and gentlemen. This is the photo of Mr. Daniels. This is the photo of Mr. This is the photo of the Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews. So we will show you what we want to do with it. You know, with the BRI. Can you just
tear it and put it into a rubbish bin?
Tear it off.
Tear it up and put it in rubbish bin. That's what people say. Okay, and throw away. So yes, so that is a demonstration for you that in unity, we are with ethnic community, mostly Asian. So there is no accusation of being racism here, ladies and gentlemen. We are here as your fellow Australian, putting the Australian interest first. So don't you in China, from the Chinese Communist regime, swaying your tongue and calling us being racist. No, we are from the Asian Freedom Alliance community that come together, putting the Australian interest first, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what I said. As I said to you before, we are Australians. We protect Australian interests. If we don't do that, nobody else do. Nobody else do that for us. So we need to protect the future of Australia for us and for our children, ladies and gentlemen. On that note, I just wanna thank every one of you who put in your precious time aside to be with us here today in unity. I also thank the media and the streamers, the live streamers, who are actually doing, carrying out your work so that our friends, our fellow Australians can follow from home. And I respectfully thank you, our protesters who are observing the social distancing rule. And I thank you, our uniform officers, the Victorian Police, who have allowed and guided us through the protest. And thank you, the parliamentary and security teams as well. Ladies and gentlemen, as Fong said before, we said we put the Australian interest first. We want the BRI to be torn up, okay? We are not actually against any political party, but we will side with those parties who protect the Australian interest. Those parties or parliamentarians, including the ALP, I know that the ALP, federal government, federal MP has also voiced against the BRI. Okay, we are really appreciative of that. You putting the national interest first. We thank you for that. Okay, so therefore I would like, as your fellow Australian, I would like to put my commitment on the table. Our community will be back here until the BRI is no longer being mentioned can be imposed until the Australian Victorian future. Okay, so our community will be back here every month if we have to. I recognize there's a young man there, Morgan Jonas, who has organized protests previously. Man, you are a young fellow Australians. If you organize the same Belt Road Initiative protest again, we will support you. We will support every other Australians who organize anything like that. We will be behind you completely, because I think that you are putting the interests of the Australian first. So we'll be here with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much, and I hope that you will be safe. We are in the coronavirus pandemic together, and I believe that we will get to the other side together. Doesn't matter what color skin you are. You might be Caucasian, you might be Asian background, you might be from African. Doesn't matter. We are in Australia together. We are on the same boat. We will get to the other side together. But you must remind yourselves of this. The dangers of the Chinese Communist regime. What have they been doing during the pandemic? They tried to take over Philippines and Asian territorial.
in terms of setting up the two stations in Philippines. This is what happened, and they actually muscle up their military in Southeast Asia Sea. So they're trying to actually do two things at the same time. At the moment, they're creating the world attention to focus on coronavirus. At the same time, they're trying to exercise their power, overtake other nation interests in Southeast Asia Sea. This is something that you should remind yourselves and see how our Australian interest is actually can be impact in the future. Now, what I ask your fellow Australians, what I do is, from now on, this is what I have been doing, but I have been purchasing Australian-made product only, and I can make the commitment to you. From now on, even the Australian products actually cost 3 times more than the products that actually import from China. I will buy Australian-made product. I will buy Australian-made product just to support our farmers, to support our Australian manufacturing. All right, so we no longer actually rely on the Chinese-made medical equipment, which is substandard, ladies and gentlemen. We can no longer allow our fellow Australian farmers suffer, all right, by some other foreigns actually government imposing 80% or 30% or whatever arbitrary number. This is no longer acceptable, ladies and gentlemen. I saw an ad in Woolworth, prawn sales, and they said that this is import, this is product from China. Don't use it for bait. And then I thought to myself, hang on a minute, if it's not safe for us to use it for bait, then why are you selling it to the Australian people? What are you doing, ladies and gentlemen? So, can I say to you that, on that note, I wish you all the best. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of the society, and together we will protect the Australian interest. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, everyone. The last word for me is, there is an article written by a Vietnamese Victorian, and in that she mentioned that when we become Australian citizens, there is a vow that the affirmation we have to declare. We have to declare that we uphold the Australian value. We respect the Australian values and honor that. And that means Australian value means human rights. And now our Premier have do away with it. I think in the future we should not invite our Premier to these citizenship ceremony, because he cannot preside over something that he does not believe or he does not uphold. And therefore, anyone who do not uphold Australian values, who do not uphold human rights, do not uphold the freedom, they are not Australians. So that, whether born here or not, if you do not uphold that, you are un-Australian. So that is what I call this Belt and Road initiative that our Premier signed. He is not only un-Victorian, he is un-Australian. In my eyes, he no longer an Australian, because you no longer uphold the values that Australians hold, that I, as a citizen, I sworn to uphold, and I continue to have the courage to uphold, and all of us here have the courage to uphold. So therefore, mark this, ladies and gentlemen, those who oppose us, those who do not uphold Australian value, do not call them Australian. They not deserve to salute this flag. They not deserve to uphold, to sit on high as a councillor, as a mayor, or as a premier, to preside over our citizenship ceremony. On Australia Day, they should be stay at home because they are not Australian. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. And may I ask all our volunteers to roll up and help us to tidy up the parliament. And please also remark all the marks, the social distancing mark that we put it on the floor of the parliament. Thank you very much.